Is Renaissance the Mix Collection the greatest DJ mix of all time? That is a matter of personal opinion, but one thing's for certain. This mix album is important, perhaps the most important. To understand the legacy of Renaissance the Mix Collection, we have to know the world it was born out of and the change it left in its wake, because ultimately, this album is celebrated not just for its musical content, but for its cultural, commercial, and emotional impact on the electronic music scene. The album's authentic club representation, pioneering packaging and concept, artistic presentation, and most importantly, its emotional connection with its listeners all contributed to its legacy. Because this album is not just the story of Renaissance founder Geoff Oakes or resident DJs Sasha and John Digweed. This album is the story of every clubber who spent a night on the Renaissance dance floor and every electronic music lover who made their own memories listening to this mix. If you're a younger clubber passionate about house music, Renaissance the Mix Collection is worth your time. When Geoff Oakes founded Renaissance in 1992, he wanted to do something different. When acid house first arrived in the UK in 1987, it was a youth underground cultural movement. 5 years later in 1992, the music had taken a turn to hardcore, and the worst of it was pulverizing. Underground and commercial values were blurred, and the government had effectively put an end to illegal raves, forcing the scene back into the clubs. But rather than filling the club with as many glow stick waving, smiley face wearing, paying customers as possible, Geoff Oakes had a different vision. He was going to make a clubbing oasis not for everyone, but for the clubbers who not only cared about the music, but also looked the part. And on top of that, the nation's ascending DJ star, Sasha, would be his club's resident. Those lucky enough to be accepted through the front doors would quite literally be stepping into heaven. In both its angelic club decorations and flyers, Renaissance was mystical, mythical, and magical, with the right amount of grit. And stories of clubbers traveling from far-off cities getting rejected at the door only added to its mystique. Once inside on the dance floor, clubbers were treated to a divine music experience. So when it came to capturing the essence of the club in an album, Geoff turned to the two DJs he trusted most, Sasha and John Digweed. But the appearance of this album was just as important as the music it contained. Renaissance the Mix Collection was not the first DJ mix album. While dodgy cassettes had been the musical currency of the underground club scene for some years, Journeys by DJ had an already well-established mix album series with high-quality mixes from the likes of DJ Billy Nasty, Judge Jules, and Danny Rampling. Ministry of Sound had put out their own compilation series as well, featuring resident DJ Tony Humphries. But the packaging of these albums were mainly a single CD in a plastic jewel case, almost like the packaging of a cassette was reformatted for a CD. For his album, Geoff Oakes wanted its packaging and artwork to reflect the values of the club, with an intense attention to detail. Renaissance the Mix Collection would not contain one CD, but 3. Rather than a single paragraph as the album notes, Geoff hired journalist Richard Benson of The Face, who told the story of Renaissance as if it were some ancient myth, juxtaposing the story of Renaissance with the story of club music itself, ending with a line that would ring true 30 years later. One day, someone will write novels about all this. The cover of the album shows the painting of Zachariah by Michelangelo, connecting the artistry of this album with something you would find in the Sistine Chapel itself. For clubbers who bought the album, you didn't have to hear the music to know that this was something special. You saw it with your eyes and you felt it with your hands. But with that said, it would ultimately be the music, the way it was mixed, and the way it made its listeners feel that would forever change the lives of the people who purchased it. Renaissance the Mix Collection was more than just a commercial product. It was an artistic statement, and DJs Sasha and John Digweed showed that underground music could take you on a journey, both inside and outside of the club. Geoff Oakes recalls that the album was a total snapshot of nights at Venue 44, Renaissance's first home. Together, Sasha, John, and Geoff went back and forth for ages about not only the tracks that would be included, but the sequence in which these tracks would be mixed together. Sasha and John's greatness, and also boldness, immediately makes its presence felt, with a 10-minute opening sequence of 3 different mixes of Left Field's Song of Life, the Lemon Interrupt mix, the Dub for Life mix, and the Step-In Razor mix. Creating an atmosphere that could only be experienced at Venue 44. With a total of 48 tracks across 3 hours and 45 minutes of music, Sasha and John Digweed capture not just the music of the time, but how this music was changing. While progressive house is the style most closely associated with the album, the music is more progressive in its nature than in genre, as Sasha and John blend together tracks of different styles to create a journey that can't so simply be defined. Look no further than CD2's opening sequence with the PDF mix and Scat and Frenzy mix of Fluke's Slid, linked together by the Italo Let's Get This Party Started by Funk Machine. The mix introduces long blends of different tracks that would become the calling card for Sasha and John Digweed in the years to come. On CD1, the sequence of Moonchild's VOAT into the Boy's Own mix of Sunscream's Perfect Motion runs for a total of 16 minutes. Creating a sonic landscape for a singular moment to emerge, the bass line of Perfect Motion dropping in the wake of VOAT. For many, the album captured the essence of a transformative period in electronic music. Not only was the music changing, but the way clubbers listened to the music was changing. Renaissance the Mix Collection became a soundtrack to their memories and experiences, creating a strong emotional connection. When the album was first released, friends would come together to listen to it as they got ready for a night out, or equally so, after a night out, adjusting back to the real world. Furthermore, Renaissance, both the club and the album, helped define Clubland as a community. Clubbers across Britain and across the world would travel great distances just to experience a night at Renaissance. Forgotten towns like Mansfield and Renaissance's next home in Derby became clubbing meccas. And the album that reflected these nights created a shared experience that clubbers from all different backgrounds could stand on as common ground. 30 years later, Renaissance the Mix Collection is a time capsule that brings lifelong lovers of this music back to a specific time and place, where they were not only discovering this underground music, but also discovering themselves. And the best part is, the album still sounds great. Sasha and John Digweed are still in the DJ booth, and this music is there for an entire new generation to discover.